Welcome to the Yes to Entrepreneurship podcast. So, real quick, before I jump into the conversation with this week's guest, I just want to let you know what this show's about. Really, this show is just about all the conversations we, entrepreneurs, those of us who are the why notters, have around entrepreneurship. It's the conversation that you don't typically hear because you just see those fun posts on Instagram and Facebook where we're hanging out on yachts or we're making a ton of money and driving these fancy cars, when reality is that's not real life. Real life is trying to figure out how you're going to pay bills, trying to figure out if you're going to make rent this month, trying to figure out if that new client really is going to help move you forward or if they're really going to bring you down. Really, anything goes in these conversations. And you, the listener, gets to eavesdrop in on these conversations that I'm having with fellow entrepreneurs. So grab your cup of coffee, grab your water, grab your tea, whatever it is that you enjoy, and a pen and paper because you're about to take some notes. Also, be sure to share this out. Oh, here comes my guest. Talk to you soon. Quick shout out to our sponsor, StupidEasy.com. StupidEasy.com is a new online course platform where you can easily upload and sell your online courses without having to be tech savvy and without them taking a cut of your sales. Discover more at StupidEasy.com, and we'll have a link in the show notes for you. Hey Sarah, how are you today?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah, good.
Excellent. So tell me a little bit about yourself, because we're literally just meeting for the first time. So I want to get to know you and what you do.
Okay. Well, I'm an artist mainly, and I specialize in auric art, so art that represents people's auras.
Okay.
Which is a bit of a niche field, I suppose. It's not the only thing I do. I do other kinds of art and illustrations and logos and all of that kind of stuff. My business is kind of broad, I suppose, but it's all about the different things that I'm curious about. So I've just kind of followed my nose in setting it up and sort of seen where the wind takes me, sort of thing. I'm not an obsessive planner necessarily that sat down and worked out a whole route or anything like that.
No, that's super cool though. And so how long have you been in doing this?
Well, the business, I started it back in 2011, but it started very, very small, just with a few little items on Etsy, and but was very, very quiet for quite a long time. Like I say, I just kind of followed my nose with everything and just sort of did what appealed to me at the time.
Yeah.
So it's not been something that has grown really quickly or following any kind of plan or anything like that. But I just sort of tinkered around with it, I suppose, for a few years. And I would say that I really started to take it seriously around 2013. So I've been really, really sort of seriously pursuing everything since about 4 years ago, and sort of starting to sort of focus in on what I really enjoy and figuring out what really works for me and what I really want to offer and that kind of thing. Before that, it was all a bit just like, oh, I'll do this, oh, I'll do that, oh, I'll do the other type of thing, you know?
Yep. We all get into that, especially at the beginning. And that's really awesome that you number one, kept with it. But number two, that you started to focus in. Now, was there anything specific that kind of just like reached out to you and said, hey, we got to figure this out and get a little bit more specific here? Or was it just kind of all of a sudden, hey, I guess I should narrow things down?
Yeah, it was, I'd had quite a few health problems really. The job that I was doing before was working in schools in education.
Okay.
And that's quite a sort of stressful environment, really. You kind of very much pushed towards getting results from people. I mean, you don't really get an awful lot of time to spend with the children in particular, or actually helping the children at where they are. You're just kind of, oh, can I get them an A? Can I get them a B? Can I get them a C? What can I, you know? I found that whole experience very stressful. It's just been kind of getting on top of me gradually, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And I started to think, do you know what? I really need to leave this side of my work behind and focus more on the other side of the work. because I knew that the art experience and starting to make art, because I didn't really start to make art at all until I was 27. I'd not really, before that, I didn't think I could draw or anything. I just didn't think I could do it at all. But when I started having these sort of bouts of depression, that's what I kind of turned to as something. It just kept sort of niggling at me. You should definitely try that. You should definitely try that. And eventually I did, and it just it really lifted me out of my depression. And I kind of wanted to pass that on to other people. And I thought, well, if I could get away from my previous job that was causing me undue amounts of stress, and focusing a bit more on actually using art to help people heal, to help people grow, to help people develop. And if I could base my business around that and leave behind the day job, as it were, then I just felt like I'd be a lot healthier, a lot happier. And that was really the driving force that sort of made me really start to sort of zero in on what do I really want to do here. And what I really want to do is just help people to access that creativity that we quite often leave behind when we're sort of 5 or 6 and we get our coloured crayons taken off us at school and get them replaced with a big boring black pen, you know.
Yeah, no, that's wow. That is awesome because yeah, I used to work in a school district as well, and I wasn't a teacher, but I did help the kids in the after school program. And you know, it is. I had a little bit of that taste of how stressful it can be, you know, during homework time, trying to get them to one, focus, but two, to get as much work done before they had to leave because the minute they left, you know, they were going to practices or going home and having dinner and doing all these extra stuff. And it's like they had to get their homework done before leaving because it was very stressful for them. So I have a little bit of that idea. And the fact that you took that and turned it into a more positive light and a business is just amazing.
It kind of felt, it was like a magnetic draw. It was kind of, because my rational brain was going, what are you talking about? Art, you can't really do that. You can't even draw. What's the matter with you? And had been for years. But then I just kept coming back to the idea. It kept being drawn back to it and sort of circling back around it, no matter what I struck out. Because obviously your kind of ego self has all these ideas that it thinks you ought to be doing and has all these opinions, and your inner critic, of course, has a terrible field day at that stage, sort of telling you that everything you do is rubbish and so on and so on.
Yes.
And I would kind of go off on these tangents thinking, oh, this is the thing, this will be better. If I just do this way, this will be better. But in the end, I just kept coming back to the same thing, this kind of idea of just making a living by actually teaching what I enjoy teaching and sharing things that have been really beneficial to me. So my kind of front-facing business online is all about art, but I also locally teach music to young kids. I teach from home as opposed to within school, and it's really kind of helped me regain that love of teaching, because a lot of that got lost with my previous day jobs just because of all the sort of constant deadlines and stresses and strains and paperwork and things that nobody gets into teaching to do, basically. But they do take over very, very quickly.
Oh, sure. And how do you remember like how you got into that transition, like how you started with the sense of literally going from your work environment to I'm going to do this on my own? Like, were you still working in the school job while doing this on the side, or did you just completely say, I'm good, now it's going to be this transition?
It's a bit of both, really, because it started out very, very small, and it was definitely a side gig. And I started out with just a blog, actually. I didn't have a shop or anything else. I just started out with a blog, and I'd gotten really into reading other people's blogs. And then I started to notice that people were selling things on Etsy and writing ebooks and different things. And I thought, oh, that might be a way of me reaching a few more people and doing it. And I just sort of dabbled and dabbled and dabbled and dabbled. And then I started to get more serious about it. And I was still working full time at that point in education, and just fitting in around. And I did that for about 3 or 4 years. And at the time, I was blogging 7 days a week.
Oh, wow.
which is a bit over the top. 7 days a week, plus full-time work, plus creating artwork and different things for the shop and promoting all of that. And it was really full on, actually. And then I just got to a point where it wasn't necessarily that I was earning so much from the side hustle, as it were, but I could leave. But it just got to the point where I just thought I have to leave now, because I can't keep doing this. I can't keep working all day at a job that I hate, that makes me feel ill, that makes me feel stressed, and that leads me back down the road to that depression.
Yeah.
Over and over again, just because of kind of burnout and tiredness and everything. And I just kind of, at one point, I said to my husband, like, I can't keep doing this. I just can't. And he said, well, just leave the job. We have enough money. We can cover the bills. It's okay. And just try your business properly. Try and see if you can set it up, and try and see if you can make it work. And so that's what I did. And really, since then, my health has been fine. My mental health has not been a problem at all. It was definitely the right decision. Financially, probably not. Financially, would be better off if I'd maybe waited a bit longer before getting rid of the full-time job. But in terms of my health and happiness and the general happiness of our home, it was definitely the right decision just to go for it.
Yeah, and that's the biggest factor. And I love the fact that you mentioned you talked with your husband about it, because I know with entrepreneurship, it can be very lonely, even if you do have family members or significant others around. But the other part is that, I feel like a lot of people just don't talk enough about what they're really dealing with and the struggle that they're going through in that moment. And when they have significant others, it's like, if they don't communicate clearly with them, like for you, if you didn't communicate with your husband, you could have been stuck at that job until it really took a toll on your health, and then really would spiral downwards with that. So it's huge, the communication factor there.
Absolutely. And I think, like you say, it's very hard for your other half to put themselves in your shoes. I mean, my other half actually still works in education and absolutely finds it fine. It doesn't have the same effect on him. He doesn't get so involved with the students necessarily. He doesn't take it home with him as much as I did. It seems to suit him personality wise. Whereas having his own business, he often says to me, God, I would never do that. That would be awful. I can't even imagine that. It would be so stressful. Like he just couldn't even contemplate that idea. But he at the time didn't realize just quite how much it was affecting me until we sat. I mean, he had a bit of an idea, obviously, but when we sat down and talked about it, and I explained just how much of an effect it was having, to him it was just a no-brainer. Like he often says to me, like, well, if you're happy, then I'm happy. And he also says daft things like, if you're happy, then you might make me some nice food when I get home. That kind of thing. So he's very simple about it all. He doesn't necessarily expect me to become some brilliant millionaire necessarily.
And that's a beautiful thing right there, because I think what happens a lot of the time is people jump into entrepreneurship and feel like they have to be this overnight success, and they have to make all this money to keep up with the Joneses and try to be, this person that they're not, and have all these luxurious items that they don't need, when in reality, it's just about doing what you love and being able to live a healthy lifestyle and to enjoy what you do.
Absolutely. I think that is the key thing with entrepreneurs, and I see it an awful lot. I'm sure you do as well. Like, people that think, oh, I can have a multiple figure, I can have a six-figure, that six-figure business thing that people are often going on about. Like, and that's great if you get one, and good luck to you, and it's wonderful. But I would do this no matter what, really. It doesn't matter how much I'm earning. If I'm earning, I don't know, £100 a month, if I'm earning £1,000 a month, if I'm earning £10,000 a month, I would still do the same thing. I would still do the same job, because it makes me happy. And the money is always there. There's always enough. I'm not at the point where I'm a millionaire or whatever else, but there's always actually enough. And I also find that as an entrepreneur, the kind of worry trap is really real. And I do find that the more I worry about, oh, am I going to have enough money for X, Y, Z, the longer it seems to take for that money to appear. Whereas if I just sort of chill out a bit and it's okay, then actually it tends to come along a lot quicker. I don't know quite why that is, but it's easy to get into worrying, I think, and I think it's not for the faint of heart really to be an entrepreneur, because that steady paycheck is just not. It's certainly not at the beginning anyway. It's just not there, and it's hard to adjust to that actually when you first start out.
It's so true, and it's so funny you mentioned about worrying and money, because it's one of those things. It's always on our minds, right? And for me, I just like having enough money to get my expenses cleared, and I have different accounts for different things. So it's not like, I'm struggling in that sense, but there's certain things where I'm like, I need to offset this cost by doing something, and I need money to come in order to do X, Y, Z. And so sometimes I will stress out about it myself and be like, okay, did I make enough this month for whatever this trip is, or for whatever this is? And sometimes I'll stress out, and then all of a sudden I'm like, no, you know what? I have to just let it go. It's going to be fine. And then boom, something comes in, whether it's a client looking for work, or it's an affiliate sale or something, just as a nice little reminder, like, Ed, chill out. You're good. Like, we got you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you just, I don't know, it's a strange scenario, but definitely the more you worry, the less anything seems to move or shift or happen. I think it proves itself to be over and over again. I can kind of be like, oh my God, I need to earn this much money, blah, blah, blah. Right, let's hustle, let's have a sale, let's do this,
Right.
blah, 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 blah. And I'll do it for a few weeks, and then nothing will happen, and no one will buy anything, and I'm like, oh my God. And then I stop messing around and panicking, and then all of a sudden someone will contact me and say, oh, can you do a whole series of illustrations for my website? I'm willing to pay you this amount of money. And it's quite often the exact amount that I'm after anyway. But you just need to let it happen, and not just kind of sit back and wait for everyone to come to you. Obviously you have to keep sharing and all of that stuff so that people can find you, but the stress and the worry, it certainly never helps anyway.
Yeah, no, and that's so true, because I was just talking about this on my other podcast, Check with Ed, and what's interesting about it, that you mentioned this, is that I was talking about how we have to to build a sustainable business, at least, we have to really be about the relationship, not the sale for today. Even when I was at my sales job, I was always telling people, because they were wondering why I was number one in sales. And it wasn't because every day I had the most sales go out the door. It was because I didn't care about the sale for that day. I cared about the relationship that I built with my customers over time. So when they left during that day, if they didn't buy anything, it doesn't matter to me. I provided them with the information they needed. And if they need it later, they'll come back and they'll get it. And that's always been how I do things. I'm not one of those, sleazy salespeople. It's just, here's the information, and it's up to you to what you want to do with it next. And people just didn't get that. They were like, how's Ed number one all the time when you look at the big picture? And it's like, because I'm not worrying about the sale today. I'm building that relationship and giving the customer what they need so that they can make that decision and return when they're ready. And that's how you have to do with entrepreneurship too,
It's like relationships in general. You're just, if you sort of try and dive, if the first time you met a man somewhere and your first question out of her mouth was, will you marry me, or do you want kids? They're just going to be like, what?
Yeah.
Whereas if you just let them let everything develop in its own natural way, let them get to know you, and so on, then eventually down the line, those questions are going to be asked at the right time rather than the wrong time. Going for the sale all the time is like proposing to somebody that you've just met. It's too much, you know. You do get people who see things and just buy them straight away, and I do that myself sometimes. Just I'll see something and think, oh yeah, definitely that, buy it, no problem. But for a lot of people, they need to kind of, like you say, build up a relationship with you, maybe see something free that you've got knocking around so they can have a little taster and see whether they think they'll get on with you, and that kind of thing. And then sort of a little way down the line, then they'll be interested in buying something from you and taking that sort of next step. I think it's hard though in some ways with everything being online. I think it's the comparisons that we do between ourselves and other people.
Yes.
And from the outside, you look at other people launching courses or whatever it is they're launching, and it seems immediately successful. And you think, oh, well, am I not being pushy enough because mine aren't immediately successful? But what you don't see is the years perhaps of them building up that relationship with their people way before they ever started selling something, and you're only seeing really the tip of the iceberg there. And yes, they're being very successful, but there are steps along that way before they've gotten to that you maybe just weren't aware of because they weren't on your radar at that time. So building a relationship and trying not to get, again, it's just the panic, it's the fear, it's the, oh, this is going to be a failure, I must try and do, when actually a lot of the time you just need to sit back and let it happen.
Yeah, it's so true. And, you know, speaking of getting people their attention and bringing them or having them come to you, how do people find out about you, or how have they found out about you and your business?
There's lots of different ways. I'm members of lots of different Facebook groups, some that are just sort of international ones that I don't have any in real life friends in there, if that makes sense, people that I know in real life, and some that are very much sort of people that I've worked with in the past who can recommend me to other people because they know me and that kind of thing. So that's one way that people get to know me. Obviously, like, I reach out to other websites and blogs and do guest posting, and I was recently in the Heart Art Journal magazine and those kinds of things, so that I reach out to new audiences, and I do sort of spend a fair bit of time making sure that I'm reaching out to people via social media. So my favorite social media channel at the moment is Instagram.
Oh,
it's
really?
It's the one place that I post just organically. Obviously, Instagram and scheduling and stuff is all a bit complex anyway.
Yeah.
But actually, I quite enjoy Instagram just to use it in the way that sort of ordinary people use social media. I just go onto my phone or my iPad or whatever and just post a photo and whatnot. I don't schedule anything in advance or plan it out or anything. I just sort of share snippets of my day. And that's my favorite one to use. And then I kind of cross post that to other social media like Facebook and Twitter, because they don't totally light me up in the same way. I do post there, and I tend to schedule more on Twitter and Facebook just because they just don't grab me in the same way for some reason.
And that's so interesting. And, you know, it's funny too, when you think about it, you're doing on Instagram, you're doing what we all used to do. And what's so simple is just posting in the moment when we actually feel inspired versus scheduling it out and trying to plan all these things ahead. And so, you know, in a way for me, it's just funny because it's taking it back to the basics and really just doing the basics, which still work.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I enjoy it a lot more. I mean, I have used sort of scheduling programs and different things before, and they're great, and you can feel very, very, very professional and having everything really set up and ready to go and so on and so on. But the kind of almost the sort of soul of it is missing when you work in that way, I think, a little bit anyway. And I think people know the difference between something that's scheduled and repeated and so on, and something that's more sort of organically shared in the moment rather than scheduled months in advance, say.
Sure.
I think it touches people a little bit more because they get to know you, or they feel like they get to know you in a more real way if you can manage to do that. I mean, obviously, it all depends on your schedule and your day and what you can realistically expect of yourself. And I think it also comes down to what you actually enjoy. Like, I really enjoy posting on Instagram, which is why I do it. I don't really enjoy posting on Twitter, which is why I schedule that.
Right.
Do you know? So everyone has their social media channel that just appeals to them for whatever reason, and the one that's best for their kind of business and their niche and whatnot. And I think just go with the ones that you really like, and maybe keep up a smaller presence on other social media using schedulers and things. But just, put your joy where your joy is, I suppose, rather than sap your joy doing something that you don't really like.
Yes, I love that. Put your joy where your joy is. Because that is key, because I will say, well, let me ask before I mention that, how often do you post a day on Instagram, given that you're doing it manually?
Yeah, usually 2 or 3 times a day.
Okay.
Sometimes only once. It just depends really on what the day is like, but mostly 2 or 3 times. And I kind of cross post that, like I say, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest.
Right.
Again, Pinterest is something that should appeal to me as an artist, but for some reason I don't. So I just kind of have that go to those different places. So in case anyone does find me that way and that kind of thing, then I've at least I've dabbled and I've covered my bases.
Right.
But if it weren't for the sort of automatic nature of that, I probably wouldn't bother, because I don't think it's anyone's job, unless you're a social media manager, to be on social media all the time.
Right.
And it just ends up being something that gets in the way of doing what you really want to do.
And that's perfect, because that's what I talk to a lot of people about is, pick whichever social media platform you want to be on. And most people are on, the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram, those are the big ones, and Pinterest and LinkedIn. But you can't be active on all of them all the time and run a business. So the way you're doing it is perfect by focusing in on the one that really you enjoy using, while still keeping up a decent presence on the other ones just in case. And I like that because, for me, I kind of have a love-hate relationship with Instagram, business-wise, I guess, because for me, it's one of those things where it seems like a chore for posting, and that there's just so many fake followers that I find, because the different hashtags, they'll have automatic bots for the hashtags, and then they'll have automatic people that follow you, and they're not real because they're all the computer things. So to me, it just drives me crazy. And then I guess another part really is the formatting. I like to share a lot. I like to share not only what I have, but what you might have or what somebody else might have, so that others can find you. And for me, that's why I like Facebook, because I'm able to share your post easily, whereas Instagram, it's not so easy to do it directly. And when you're writing a caption, it's one big blob unless you use special characters to separate it. So formatting like that also drives me nuts.
Yeah, it is totally different. And obviously the sort of having to type away on your phone isn't as comfortable as doing it on a keyboard.
Right.
And the whole followers thing is absolutely bonkers on Instagram. Like my numbers go up and down and up and down all the time. So that is annoying, but I think I like it because I like posting there. It's not necessarily about, how many people follow me on there.
Exactly.
It's just, I like doing it. So that's why I do it, I suppose. But there are parts of it that are kind of annoying, like the sort of having to type out everything, and the stupid comments. Like I'll see a little notification saying I have a comment, and I think, oh, that's nice, I'll go and see what, and it's just an emoji. Like, now really, why have I just wasted 2 seconds looking that up when you just
I know.
Just hit like if that's all you can think to do, like I don't get it.
I know, I hear you. I know, and that's the funny thing about social media, right? Is it sucks us all in, and no matter which platform we're on, we still are going to get sucked in by those notifications. and because we're just hoping that there's a conversation there.
I have most of my notifications turned off actually, because I noticed because I'd recently bought an iPad and I have
Yes.
my phone as well. And obviously I was getting then multiple notifications across those two and my laptop. And I just thought, I can't deal with this at all. It's driving me bonkers. So I turned most of them off actually. So the only ones that come up on either my phone or my iPad are just the little 1 or 2, the number
Yep.
that comes up in the corner of the app. That's the only thing. Nothing else comes up at all. And it's made such a difference because I'm so much less irritated by the whole thing. By just
Isn't
not
that
having those
so true? Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that, because I have done the same for different things, including, believe it or not, email.
Yep, same here. Yep.
On my phone, I turned off the notifications on my email, so I don't even actually see, for my business email, I don't actually see any numbers or notifications. I turned it completely off because of the fact that I'm in my inbox all day long on my computer. Like literally it's open all day long. So I don't need a notification on my phone. And if I'm not by my computer, I have the habit of checking email just like I would check Facebook or my text messages. So for me to not be in my inbox for a long period of time is not realistic unless I'm traveling or something. So it just helps me not be so stressed, because I'm one of those that I don't like seeing the numbers. So if I see them, I want to go through and quickly finish them so they're gone.
Yep, same here. It's like an obsessive compulsive thing or something.
Yes.
It's really annoying. You have to get rid of. But I don't have everything on my phone either. I don't have Facebook on my phone. I don't have Twitter on my phone. I only have Instagram.
Oh, see, that's nice.
So I just I narrow everything down, because things like that are so addictive. Like, you can just be there for hours and you don't even realize how long you've been sitting there scrolling away, and then you've accomplished nothing. You've not done. You may have seen one comment that led to a conversation that might have led to a sale, maybe every now and then, but really that's just a huge time suck of your whole day, when you could be better off doing something different, something that you really need to do for your business, or something just that you really enjoy. When people often say, I haven't got time to be creative, I haven't got time to do anything like that, I just think, but if you took away that time that we all need a bit of downtime where we don't do anything, that's fine, but if you took away that kind of I feel like it's destructive time, because it saps your energy as well. It's not quite the same as doing nothing. It doesn't rest you or rejuvenate you to spend time scrolling through social media. It eats up time, and you come away from it kind of overstimulated, angry sometimes because you've read something that's driven you a bit mad, or whatever else. And the drama in the comments of everything nowadays, I think it can be really toxic.
Big time.
You take that energy away from the computer or from the screen with you. And I think if you're spending too long scrolling on Facebook or Twitter or wherever, you're going to get into the comments and you're going to read some awful things half the time, and that's just going to, I don't know, it's just going to escalate feelings and drama within yourself. And then even if you do have a bit of time to be creative or to work on your business or whatever it is that you wanted to do, you're not in the right mindset then, because you've been kind of sort of agitated by this drama contained within your computer kind of thing.
Oh, totally. And that's the big part right there that you mentioned, is our downtime and scrolling through Facebook basically are two separate things, right? Because for me, we lump those together. When we say downtime, we do, as just in general, we all say, in my downtime, I'm just going to go check Facebook or whatever, and it is fine. But if you're really trying to be creative, at least for me, what I found is that I have to separate my downtime, which could be my scrolling time on Facebook, to separate that to my downtime and my creative time, where my creative time, I'm really not doing anything. Like, I'm not looking at the computer, I'm not looking at my phone, I'm not on social media. I'm literally, trying to tie my hands behind my back and sit in a quiet room and just think, because, you know, I tell people a lot of times when they need to take breaks throughout the day, you know, and to go for at least a 15, 20-minute walk, because the first 10 minutes, for the most part, you're still coming down from that high of email, text, whatever to-do list you have. And so your brain's still thinking about it, even though you're not actually doing that stuff. And so for me, what happens is right around 15 minutes or so, then I start to just get quiet in my head. And then I can start thinking about the actual projects that I want to work on, or the progress I want to make in my business. And that's when the questions come up and the answers come and the ideas really start to come together, if that makes sense.
The great thing for me about art and creativity is that you get to that phase of an open mind much quicker.
Sure.
Because when you're creating art, you just your brain you're sort of fooling it into slowing down, because as soon as you start picking up brushes and paints and whatnot, you can still be thinking about something that was going on from a few minutes ago, like you said, oh, I'm still thinking about the text, the emails, or whatever. But very, very quickly, I would say within 2, 3, maybe 5 minutes of starting to draw, starting to paint, starting to get your art supplies out, very, very quickly all backs away, much more quickly than well, for me anyway, than exercise or anything else. It very, very quickly just gets me into that zone. And your brain is just engaged enough in terms of what's going on with your hands, what are you doing, what are you making, but it's not so engaged that it can't think and it can't come up with ideas, because I get a lot of my best ideas when I'm actually painting. So I'll be in the middle of a painting and some idea will come to me and I'll be like, oh God, pen, paper, you know, paint everywhere. But that for me, it's so much quicker, because you're engaging your brain just enough to make it drop all of the other stuff much more quickly than it would like to do. You're lulling it very, very quickly, but not lulling it into a state of complete rest.
Sure.
Lulling it into a state of openness and kind of relaxation, but not to the point where you're switched off, not that kind of relaxation.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the problem, really. A lot of times, it probably seems like an awful thing to say, but a lot of people don't really know how to relax. Their idea of relaxing is just either being on social media or watching the TV. And the TV is in a lot of ways the same as social media. It's not really something that is relaxing. It's something that's stimulating and that pumps you. Like if you're watching a drama on the TV about somebody being in an awful situation and having to go to the police or whatever, you're involved in that drama.
Oh,
and you're kind of your emotions you're hit up and everything else. So we've all been conditioned, I think, to think that this is what relaxation looks like, watching the telly or whatever else, or even having a cup of tea. Tea is full of caffeine, like
right.
It's not really relaxing. Not that I'm against a cup of tea, but I don't know, I think people struggle to know how to relax, and they struggle to know how to, because they've never really had it, they've never really experienced it. And I think anything that takes your mind away from yourself and does it quickly. So things like even reading a book, not looking at a screen, because the screen kind of has an effect on your eyes and all of that kind of stuff. But reading a book, not reading a magazine, because magazines are so often awful. But just something that takes you out of yourself, that doesn't involve screen time in any way, shape or form. It can really be anything, but for me, I found that art is the quickest way. It's the quickest way to a clear mind that I've ever found. Anything else, I can still, even with exercise, I can still be 30 minutes in and still thinking about something that I was thinking about beforehand. For me, anyway, it just doesn't grab me in the same way. My brain is very difficult to silence, actually. I've done quite a lot of meditation, and it's taken me a long time to get to the point where I can do any, because it just, as soon as I quieten down for something like meditation with nothing in my hands, my brain just, honestly, and I'll look back at the thoughts and think, what on earth am I thinking? did I get to this? What? And it's almost like a dream, you know, when dreams are just
Sure.
random with things happening. My brain skips off like stones skimming off of the water, like just skips off in all these directions, and I find it very hard to quieten it down. But art does it for me straight away. It's very, very quick. I just find it very easy then to have this open,
And
quiet mind.
that is so cool. And so, what do you work with your clients? Are you doing group sessions? Are they one-on-one? Like, kind of walk me through, because I'm curious. Because I'm like, okay, I'm ready for some art.
Well, it's a mixture of different things. I do kind of online courses. I have
Okay.
an online like, artist community, which is full of different e-courses and different things that can help people to connect and create. I do some in-person art workshops. At the moment, they're just kind of one-to-one, but I'm looking in the future to sort of expand that to be more group-based.
Yeah.
And those kind of sessions, I actually walk people through how to create their own aura angel.
Okay.
So I'll read their aura and tell them the details of that, and then we'll create an angel that represents that on the canvas, and it's a lovely experience.
Oh, cool.
Every single time I have people come along, for all of the people that have done this so far, they're like, oh, I can't really draw, I can't really do, I'm not a creative person at all. And then they come to the end of the session, maybe 2-3 hours later, and they have a canvas, a piece of artwork that looks the way, and it's not just kind of, oh, well, it's almost right. It looks the way it's supposed to look, and they're so proud of themselves, and they've so surprised themselves by being able to do it that it's just brilliant. You know, they leave the session almost giddy kind of thing, because they're just they've had such a relaxing time. They've had such a wonderful switch off time. So I try and replicate that with the online community in the same way as much as possible. It's never quite the same compared with being in person, but that way I can reach more people. But yeah, so the courses and the sessions that I do, it's just all about exploring and having fun and just playing and being open and relaxed, and it's definitely not about being perfectionist. It's definitely not about, well, I need to make my painting look like a photograph. I always think to myself, well, what's the point of cameras if you're just going to make your painting? And not that I disrespect anyone who does beautifully realistic art.
Right.
It's wonderful, and I am able to do that, but I don't find I enjoy it, and I don't think that's where you should start as an artist, because that's kind of like trying to start at the end of a marathon instead of starting at the beginning.
Sure.
The kind of hyper realistic kind of artwork, and people often come to me with that in mind, and they can get to that, but there has to be something in between that's a bit freer, so that they can start to play with the resources, play with the art supplies, figure out how to do this, figure out how to get their hand to move the way they want it to. Because initially, when you first start drawing, like, you have an idea in your head, this is what I want to draw, and your hand just does the opposite. It just comes out with this totally wonky looking thing that you're like, what? Where did that come from? But it's a whole process. I often say to people, kind of, you know, if people are very impatient about things that they deem to be hobbies, so things like art, they expect themselves to be very good at it from the beginning, and if they're not good at it from the beginning, then, oh, well, I'm just not meant to be an artist, is what people think. But in fact, like, if you bought yourself a book on plumbing, for example, you wouldn't sit and read that book and then expect at the end of reading that book to be able to plumb in a toilet on your own, would you? Because you'd be like, oh no, that would go wrong, and I need an actual train. So it's the same with artwork. You still need to have a bit of time to practice and get the hands on, get the hands dirty, see how it works. And then, you know, my first few paintings and drawings and stuff were pretty rubbish, really. But you just kind of build from there. And it's closing down that inner critic voice that will just say horrible things to you, that kind of ego voice that thinks it's trying to help you and keep you safe by stopping you getting into situations where you might fail, but actually it's not really helping. It's just keeping you small and keeping you in a box, but it doesn't know what else to do. So you can't blame it too much. You just have to sort of, yeah, that's all right. I'm not going to listen to you now. It's fine. Just leave me be. So getting past that bit, and then just having a go, and just keeping on going and enjoying it. And then eventually you'll look at the work that you're doing and think, wow, I can't believe that that's mine. I can't believe that I can do this. And you'll think as well, I can't believe I ever thought I was rubbish. I can't believe I ever said those horrible things to myself. Because people will say to themselves awful things that they would never say to anyone else. If a friend came to them with some artwork, they would never say, well, what the hell are you doing that there? That's awful. But they'll say it to themselves.
Yep.
And that kind of inner critic voice, we have to find a way to sort of acknowledge it, but just not allow it to rule the roost, because its only job is to keep you safe. But it's kind of left over from caveman days when they were like dinosaurs and stuff chasing you about, and mammoths and whatever else, and it doesn't know that it doesn't need to do that in the same way anymore. So it's trying to help, but it's just not very helpful.
Gosh, that you nailed it right there. Not only with artwork, but that's entrepreneurship right there.
Yeah, it's the same. It's exactly the same.
It's like, wow. And I mean, that's the truth. You know, we have those conversations with our inner self, and we have those doubts, and we say terrible things to ourselves, but we have to keep pushing through and understanding that we're doing the work that we're supposed to be doing.
Absolutely. It's so true. And it's so true of anything, I think, no matter what it is you do. There's just always those doubts and those fears. And as soon as they get to the surface and they start driving the bus, then everything kind of goes off the rails. But once you sort of, I think they're easily quietened down. You just have to kind of acknowledge them and just let them be, and let them move along to the back of the bus somewhere and just chill out a little bit. Then everything will be better. It doesn't matter what you're trying to do, whether you're trying to, I don't know, study for an exam or start up a business or whatever it is. We just need to acknowledge and control those fears so that they don't control us.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Let me ask you, what kind of tools are you using to kind of help keep you organized? Are you just using good old pen and paper, or do you have like a project management system? I'm always curious about that part of the business.
Yeah, I'm mostly pen and paper, to be honest. And I'm a real, I'm addicted to notebooks. I have like hundreds of the things. The prettier, the better. And I have various different planners. In fact, this year I went through, it's quite shameful actually, but I went through, I think it's 4 different planners this year, and just sort of started like, and when I say planner, I kind of mean diary. Like, but I went through 4 different versions this year, and each of them, I was like, oh, this is the one, this is brilliant, this is great, I'm using this every week, it's great. And then after about a month or so, no, this is annoying me, I need a different one. But I'm definitely pen and paper. I write notes to myself sometimes on the computer.
Sure.
Because it's easier, then you can copy and paste things out from there. But generally, I'm a pen and paper person, really, more than anything else. I don't use Evernote or any of those kinds of online things. I think I'm a bit old-fashioned in a way. I don't really trust like the cloud and all of that. Just like, oh no, I want it on a hard drive, then I have it and I know where it is. And my husband's an IT teacher, and he's just like, well, hard drives fail, you know. I'm like, yeah, but still, it's there in a box, I can see it.
No, pen and paper is huge. You know, I'm a very, very digital person, and I am like, you know, yay for the cloud, but at the same time, especially after starting my business, I really appreciate pen and paper. And I mean, I have those huge post-its that you can stick on the wall. I got post-its everywhere. I got different notebooks. I got a paper planner, because there's something about writing, with putting your pen to the paper and the brain connecting through your fingers. Like, I don't know. I'm not that, into that world, but I know that there's some kind of connection there that just lets it flow more naturally and is that old fashioned way that we're used to. And we don't let the technology hold us back. So that's why I always recommend when people are working on their new ideas or if they're trying to build their website or whatever the case may be, that they always start with pen and paper because nowadays, given the technology and all the awesome programs and everything, we want to jump to the technology factor and start working, but we forget that first process of mapping it out and really seeing what we can create like you do with your clients is really just be in tune with the art and just go with it and see what you naturally develop.
And I think the writing it down physically, again, is similar in a way to the art making. You're giving your hands something to do. So
Yeah.
your brain has to think, all right, hands are doing something. That occupies the monkey mind a little bit, kind of turns off the inner critic a little bit, quietens the mind down a bit more quickly so that you can then be clearer in what you're doing. But also the other danger with any of the online things is you get sucked into social media. Oh, there's a little notification there. I'll just check that notification first, and then I'll do this. And there's another one. Like it just and the screen time, the stress on your eyes of screen time. I think again, people don't quite realize how damaging that can be, and how damaging it can be to things like your sleep patterns and all sorts of things. So, I'm definitely a pen and paper person. For me, that's the way to go, really.
I love it. Well, let me ask you before I let you go, what is one piece of advice that you would give someone who's just starting out or who is thinking about getting into entrepreneurship?
I just advise you to be patient, and I advise them to be kind to themselves, and I'd advise them to look at what other people do as a learning thing, but don't compare yourself to other people, because that way madness lies. You can't, there's that quote, isn't there? Don't compare your orange soul to someone else's apple soul. Like, apples and oranges are different, but they're both lovely.
Yep.
And you won't, by comparing yourself, the other quote is, comparison is the thief of joy. And that is so very true, because even if you've got a little bit of joy at something you've done, if you then compare it to someone else who's maybe a bit further along than you, that can just steal all that joy that you had from your little triumph. So don't compare yourself to anyone else. Be patient with yourself, and most of all, be kind to yourself. Be as kind to yourself as you would be to your best friend if they were sitting in front of you telling you exactly what's going through your mind.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Dive deeper into the conversation with this guest as well as others by going to yes-to-entrepreneurship.com/podcast. Over there, you will find a list of all the previous episodes and bonus material for each guest. I hope that you'll continue to share out this podcast, and please be sure to leave a review in iTunes and subscribe so that way others can discover this show and be able to realize they are not alone and that they have somebody they can count on to provide value and motivate and inspire them to keep moving forward. Together, we can make it happen. And like I always say, teamwork equals success. So go out there and do something great, because why not?